Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Republicans in Congress are trying again to pass a bill to repeal and replace Obamacare. A vote should come as soon as this week.
Passing the measure won't be easy. Moderates are raising questions about how the plan would cover people with pre-existing conditions. Charlene Aaron has the story.
House Republicans have been working on a health care plan to avoid losing a second attempt at repealing the Affordable Care Act. It's a plan President Trump says will lower insurance premiums and guarantee coverage for people with pre-existing conditions.
Pre-existing conditions are in the bill, and I mandated, I said it has to be.
But some moderate Republicans are worried that the bill is weaker on protections for those with pre-existing conditions. And even though conservatives were the main obstacle to passing the bill the first time around, this time it's moderates. Pennsylvania Republican Charlie Dent, a moderate, says he's still not on board.
But in my view, the health care law currently isn't working, but this alternative, this replacement piece, still has very serious flaws.
The plan is also running into other difficulties, and the Senate could easily change whatever bill the House passes. Despite all the roadblocks, some Republicans are still optimistic. They say a new plan may take time, but they're heading in the right direction.
It's a winner, and everybody will just settle down. We'll get it right.
And progress is being made on health care. So sometimes things take a little longer than we would want, but that's part of the process.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Well, campaign promises, they're easier said than done. And now we're into the very real work of trying to lasso, if you will, all the members of your party to get them all pointed in the same direction. So this is going to be an interesting season. Can now the moderates come on board with the new plan? And we'll see. In other news, the State Department has issued a new international terrorism warning. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. The alert is for Americans living in and traveling to Europe this summer. The State Department says ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other militant groups are capable of planning and carrying out more terrorist attacks throughout Europe. The warning comes after a series of terrorist strikes in France, Russia, Sweden, and Britain. The alert advises U.S. citizens to be vigilant, especially at big, high-profile events during the summer travel season. President Trump is set to have a phone conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin today. Issues on the agenda could include the war in Syria and the fight against ISIS. This is the first call between the two since Russia denounced a U.S. military strike against Syria last month in response to the use of chemical weapons against Syrian citizens. Moscow supports Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad, while the U.S. backs the rebels trying to overthrow him. Last month, Trump said relations between the U.S. and Russia may be at a, quote, all-time low. Well, the Islamic group Hamas says it is no longer calling for the destruction of Israel. That announcement is part of a new political program apparently intended to end its international isolation. Still, Hamas says it refuses to recognize Israel as a state and isn't renouncing violence. And it also wants to liberate all of historic Palestine, including what is now the Jewish state. A spokesman for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the plan is an attempt to fool the world, but he also says, Gordon, it's a plan that won't succeed.
Well, we need to be aware of the history here. We also need to be aware of what Hamas represents and what they stand for. We were surprised, the Bush administration was surprised that Hamas was elected by the democratic process. The Palestinians elected Hamas to run Gaza. The Bush administration put a lot of effort into that. It was supposedly key to establishing a Palestinian state. And who did they elect? They elected a terrorist group. And so don't be fooled now with them saying, well, we'll take the 67 borders and we'll have peace. No, their intention is to take Haifa. Their intention is to take Jaffa. They need to wipe Israel off the map, and that's the story here. I've got a movie for you. It'll give you the history of how did we get here? When we're talking the 67 borders, when we're talking East Jerusalem, how did all that happen? Well, it happened 50 years ago in the Six-Day War, and there's a wonderful movie, In Our Hands, The Battle for Jerusalem, commemorating the 55th Paratrooper Brigades and their famous radio broadcast. The Temple Mount is in our hands. There'll be a one-night showing at Fathom Theaters, and if you want to find a theater near you, we just added another 150 theaters at the end of last week. So all you have to do is go to the website, inourhands1967.com, to find a theater near you.